Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wana Adrina Anisha binti Wan Fazli. Today, I will present about the microeconomics environment of Switzerland using Rolex as our case study. First, let me introduce Switzerland. Switzerland is a landlocked country located in Central Europe. It shares borders with Germany, France, Italy, and Austria. The capital city is Bern, and the country has a population of around 9 million people. Switzerland is well known for its multicultural society and has 4 official languages, which are German, French, Italian, and Romance. Besides that, Switzerland has one of the stronger and most stable economies in the world. Its major industries include banking, financial service, luxury watches, pharmaceuticals, tourism, and advanced manufacturing. The country also enjoys a high standard of living, low employment, and high-skilled workforce. Its economy depends greatly on export, especially luxury products such as Swiss watches. For this report, we choose Rolex because it is one of the most famous luxury watch brands in the world and represents Switzerland's success in precision manufacturing and luxury export. Okay, the purpose of this report is to understand how microeconomic factors such as consumer behavior, supply and demand, pricing strategies, and market competition influence the success of Rolex in Switzerland. Now, I will explain the type of economic system in Switzerland. Switzerland has a mixed market economy, which combine the features of a free market economy with government involvement. This means that individuals and business are free to own property, start business, and make economic decisions. At the same time, the government plays an important role in maintaining economic stability, enforcing laws, and providing public service. Private companies are the main driver of the economy, especially in industries such as banking, pharmaceuticals, tourism, technology, and luxury manufacturing. Meanwhile, the government regulates areas like healthcare, transportation, labor law, and environmental protection to ensure fairness and social welfare. This balanced system has helped Switzerland become one of the world's wealthiest and most competitive economies. It also supports luxury brands like Rolex by encouraging innovation, competition, international trade, and high-quality manufacturing. In terms of resource allocation, the market mainly relies on supply and demand. Companies decide what product to produce based on consumer demand and the opportunity to earn profits. At the same time, consumers influence production through the product they choose to buy. However, the government also contributes by investing in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and public transportation. It also introduced regulation to protect workers, consumers, and the environment. Overall, the balance between market force and government intervention helps Switzerland maintain economic stability, low unemployment, a high standard of living, and strong international competitiveness.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Arina Imanina binti Nasharuddin. Rolex represents the peak of Swiss luxury manufacturing, serving as both a global symbol of prestige and a major economic driver. On the demand side, consumer interest is heavily driven by rising global wealth, brand prestige, and celebrity influence. However, on the supply side, production is intentionally constrained by high-end materials, specialized Swiss labor, and strategy limits to maintain absolute exclusivity. The interaction of these two forces is what determines the final market price. If we look at our baseline market data, we can see exactly how these forces balance out. The market reached its initial equilibrium at a price of 30,000 ringgit, where supply perfectly matched consumer demand at exactly 5,000 units. For instance, setting the price above equilibrium creates a market surplus, triggering downward pressure due to low buyer interest. Conversely, dropping the price below 30,000 ringgit creates a service shortage, forcing prices back up as high Demand outpaces supply. Natural market forces will always put us back to the stable balance. Finally, let's look at what happens when market conditions change. Due to rising consumer wealth and growing collector demand, the demand curve shifts to the right from D1 to D2. Because Rolex intentionally keeps its supply constant, the sudden spike in demand forces a brand new equilibrium at point E2. As a result, the market price climbs from 30,000 ringgit to 35,000 ringgit, while the sales volume successfully expands from 5,000 to 6,000 units. This clearly demonstrates that when supply remains unchanged, a demand surge will always drive both market price and quantity upward. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Rabiatul Adawiyah binti Muhammad Azwan, and I will be guiding you through the elasticity of demand and supply for a Rolex watch. Using the standard elasticity formula, we calculate the demand elasticity to be negative 0.6. Because this value is less than 1, it indicates the demand for a Rolex watch is relatively inelastic. What does this mean in a practical sense? It means that change in price causes proportionally smaller change in the quantity demanded. Even if Rolex raises the price significantly, the drop consumer demand is minimal because buyers high value the brand prestige and quality. Now, I'm going to talk about elasticity supply. As you can see here, our elasticity calculation is 1.2 because it is greater than 1. The supply is elastic. This means Swiss watchmakers can easily increase production when market price rise. They are able to do this quickly because they already have the production capacity, a high-skilled workforce, advanced technology, and readily available raw materials. So, what are the implications? For producers, elastic supply allows them to quickly capture high profit. For consumer, it prevents severe market shortage. A great real-world example is from Coconut 24. In 2025, popular Rolex model had waiting list of 18 to 36 months. This proves our point perfectly. Buyers are willing to wait despite high price, showing inelastic demand, while manufacturers use their elastic supply to gradually fulfill those orders over time. Thank you. I will now pass the presentation to the next speaker.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nino Hazlinda binti Hussein, and I'm going to talk about consumers' behavior. In Switzerland, consumers make purchasing decisions based on the theory of utility, where they aim to maximize their total satisfaction within a limited income. They evaluate trade-off by comparing the marginal utility of a product with its cost, buying only if the satisfaction matches or exceeds the price. During period of inflation, purchasing power drops, forcing consumers to prioritize essentials over luxury items. For example, a consumer might switch from a high-priced Rolex to more affordable alternative like Omega or an Apple Watch, which offer similar utility at a lower cost. Moving on to the labor market, wages in Switzerland are determined by the interaction of demand and supply in a perfectly competitive market. Firms act as wage takers, hiring workers up to the point where the wage rate equals the worker's productivity or W equals to MRP. Any wage above equilibrium creates an excess supply of labor or unemployment, while wages below it cause a shortage. Look at the luxury watchmaking industry. Highly skilled watchmakers are scarce, making the demand for their labor D equal to MRP exceptionally high relative to the supply. As shown in the graph, this strong demand and limited supply establish a high equilibrium wage of 50,000 ringgit at quantity 1. In contrast, looking at car manufacturing workers, the skills required are less scarce and the labor supply is more available. The interaction of market forces here establishes a much lower equilibrium wage rate of 10,000 ringgit at quantity 1. In conclusion, these two graphs clearly demonstrate how market forces and labor productivity directly dictate wage differences. Thank you. That's all from me.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Nasina binti Rahim. Factors influencing wage differences. Skill is play an important role in determining wage differences. Workers who possess higher level of education, training and specialized skills are usually paid higher wages because they can perform more complex tasks and contribute greater value to the firm. For example, skilled watchmakers and technicians in Switzerland's watchmaking industry earn higher wages than less skilled production workers. Productivity also affects wage levels. Workers who are more productive and can produce a higher quantity or quality of output contribute more to a firm's revenue. As a result, employers are willing to pay higher wages to productive workers because their contribution to production is greater. Demand for labor is another factor influencing wages. When there is a high demand for workers in a particular industry, firms compete to attract and retain employees by offering higher wages. In Switzerland, the strong demand for skilled workers in industries such as watchmaking, engineering, and finance contributes to relative higher wage levels. Supply of labor also impact wage difference. If the supply of workers with specific skill is limited, wages tend to increase because employers must offer higher pay to attract qualified employees. Conversely, if there is a large supply of workers for a particular job, wages may be lower due to increased competition among workers for available positions. Therefore, wage difference arises from variation in skill, productivity, and the demand and supply condition of the labor market. In conclusion, Switzerland has a strong mixed market economy that supports business growth, competition, and innovation. Using Rolex as a case study, this report shows how demand and supply determine market prices and quantities, while consumer behavior influences purchasing decisions. The demand for Rolex watches is relatively inelastic because consumers value the brand's prestige and quality, while supply can increase over time through skilled labor and advanced technology. Overall, Switzerland's stable economy, skilled workforce, and world-famous industries such as Rolex contribute to its high standard of living and strong position in the global economy. That's all from me.